So I predicted that Putin was going to invade Ukraine for the second time during the midterms, and I was right. Putin, you got to understand when Putin was setting up Trump for failure in Ukraine to get Lazinski to turn over the stolen laptop so he could find dirt on President Biden. Putin set it up because he knew he was planning to invade after Trump left office during the midterms. So Putin wanted Trump to not send military aid to Lazinski. So he softened up Lazinski, Putin did, by saying sweet nothings into Trump ear with intel saying, hey, Lazinski has dirt on President Biden. So I predicted, because Putin has Trump compromised. Putin has backroom deals between Trump and Exxon when they were in the Russian Arctic, because Trump wanted to undermine Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 of Germany, because Exxon wanted to have the rights to flood Western Europe with Russian Arctic joint venture deals between Exxon and the Russian gas companies, and as far as the Russian Arctic energy. And they also Exxon wanted to flood energy into India. That's why when Trump was in office, he went to India, and they had him that President Moody had him in that big stadium, giving him the honors or whatever, because Trump, along with Exxon, wanted to have a pipeline that runs into India, feeding joint venture transmission fees of Exxon controlling that pipeline of Russian Arctic energy running into India, and then they wanted to build a divergent line that not only goes into India but then detours also to China. So the pipeline would have also flood energy into India, but also China. And so when Trump left the Oval Office, when his term was up, there was two Russian banks that gave Trump loans for $8 million apiece. Because I believe Trump made a deal with OPEC plus one when he was in office. That's why the Crown Prince gave Jared $2 billion portfolios to manage. And what the Crown Prince is doing is releasing incremental millions of dollars into Trump real estate through Jared. So out of those $2 billion management portfolios, because Trump, while he was in office with Exxon, they were making deals with OPEC plus one. And Trump knows that Putin can compromise him and that he can stand trial for the Russian collusion and the obstruction of Robert Mueller. Because Trump doesn't want to go to jail for business racketeering and obstructing the Mueller report and the Russian collusion investigation, because Putin can implicate him with backroom dealing, direct violations of the Emoluments Clause, and embezzling a corrupt organization of racketeering for business racketeering between Trump, Rex Tillerson, and Carl Icahn. So for that reason, Trump doesn't want to be implicated by the Russian investigation. So Putin is going to flood bots for 2024. He's going to flood America's internet with bots, Russian bots, that's going to rile up the Trump base, because Putin wants Trump to win for a second term, because that's his flunky. Trump is Putin's flunky, because Trump is afraid of Putin. He's afraid that Putin can put him into jail by outing him and implicating him with the corruptness of his business endeavors in the Russian Arctic. And Trump knows he can go to jail for life if he was to get indicted for that. And so at the end of the day, Trump is afraid of Putin for that. And that's why Putin uses Trump as a flunky. So Putin wants Trump to win for 2024 because he will set up Trump to stop sending military arms to Ukraine. And that's exactly what Putin wants. He wants to put Trump back into office with flooding bots through the American internet, social media platforms, to get Trump's base to rile Trump's base to vote for him for a second time, and in the hopes that Putin wants Trump to win for 2024, because he knows that that'll be his chance to force Trump to stop sending military arms to Ukraine. And Trump, if he wins 2024, he will do exactly what Putin wants. He will say, oh, he will use the excuse. He will say, oh, we send enough military arms to Ukraine. It's time for NATO to do their share. NATO is taking advantage of us. NATO is raping us. NATO is been laughing at our stupid leaders. And Trump will say, I'm not sending no more arms to Ukraine. Let NATO do their part. In other words, Putin is compromising Trump to stop sending arms to Ukraine if he was to win for 2024. So the CIA, the NSA, and the Justice Department, look out for those bots, those Russian bots, because America will be bombarded with Russian bots to rile up Trump's base into voting for him. That's particular. Trump for 2024 is an ace card up Putin's sleeves, and Trump is his flunky. Trump is a compromise, and he's scared of his own shadows when it comes to Russia, and he's afraid that OPEC plus one, the business racketeering that he's doing with Jared for $2 billion with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, laundering money into Trump's real estate for the deals that he set up with Exxon board members. It was Exxon that was using Trump as a flunky to make these deals with OPEC plus one. And that's why Trump, when he left office after his term, he got 2 loans for $8 million a pop from a Russian bank. So Trump has no shame. He's like Rockefeller's father. He's a scoundrel, he's a weasel, he's a con artist, he's a business racketeer. And he has no shame how far he can push the extremes of American justice by fooling his base into believing that it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt. Everything they're saying is fake news. In reality, Trump knows exactly what he's been doing as a snake oil con artist with Exxon in the Russian Arctic. He knew exactly what he was doing. And I would have to think that BP was in there too with Exxon, and that Trump probably forced Brexit with Farage for the interests of BP, because probably BP thought that along with Exxon we can flood energy into Europe, and that would be Brexit way to overtake France and Germany economical wise. So if Exxon and BP would have been flooding energy into Western Europe from the Russian Arctic, Britain thought that they will be able to take over and become more rich than Germany or France by flooding joint venture of Exxon. And the only way they had to do that is it was to undermine Angela Merkel's Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. Because Britain didn't want to play second fiddle or third fiddle to the European Union. So when Farage and Trump were causing the Brexit deal, I'm pretty sure it was because the lobbying of BP to overtake the European economy by having Britain, along with Exxon, flood Western Europe with Russian energy, joint venture deals. So I would look into that, into Farage and the relationship of lobbying with Farage interests in Trump. And I'm pretty sure it would align with that BP and Exxon in the Russian Arctic during the Trump administration. But Trump is a scoundrel. He laid down with Abdul and the Taliban. Instead of leaving the American coalition Afghan government in power when he withdrew, Trump decided to undermine the coalition American Afghan government and the president. He undermined them, and he freed Abdul, the leader of the Taliban. He freed him and 5,000 of his close lieutenants, and Trump made him rule he made them the new ruler of Afghanistan, because Trump, he only had a couple months left in the White House, and he was trying to close the deal between that pipeline that runs into India to flood Russian energy into India. So Trump was desperate to get that pipeline secured, And the only way to get it secured, Trump thought, was to lay down with Abdul, to get Abdul not to terrorize that pipeline. So Trump wanted the Afghan Taliban regime not to promise Trump not to terrorize that pipeline, and Trump was desperate to close the deal. The few months that he still had, right before he left his term in office, Trump thought, I only have a couple months left in the White House, so let me free Abdul and the Taliban and give them rule over Afghanistan just as long as they can promise me not to terrorize that pipeline, because it meant that much to Exxon to flood India and China with energy that Trump wanted to lay down with the Taliban for the love of profiteering as a snake oil con artist. And Trump is such a weasel. For 2024, he keeps on saying, "Oh, I told Angela to send her a white flag for surrender because Germany is reliant on Russian energy." In reality, Trump was trying to undermine Germany, to bypass Germany, and for Exxon to flood energy through the Ukrainian pipeline, along with BP and Exxon. They would have controlled flooding Russian gas and oil through the Ukrainian pipelines to profiteer off of supplying Europe with Russian Arctic energy. So Trump was trying to undermine Angela Merkel, not because he's using the excuse. He was like, "Oh, I was warning Angela Merkel that she shouldn't be reliant on Russian energy." That's a snake oil Rockefeller scheming lie that he's using, because what in actuality what he was doing, he wanted to undermine Germany. He wanted to undermine Germany along with BP and Exxon, because President Macron believes in the Paris Accords. He wants to wean off of fossil fuels when it comes to gasoline guzzlers. Macron believes in green renewable energy, electric cars. Uh, so between that's why Trump was tariffing France and Germany. He was using the excuse, "Oh, I'm tariffing Germany because of their car industries, and I'm tariffing France because of their cheese and wines," which is excuse my word, but it's bullshit. His true tactic, Macron was a thorn in his ass because Trump wanted to use fossil fuels, gasoline and gas and oil for Western Europe. So Trump doesn't want to abide by the Paris Accords. And Trump wanted to undermine Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 from Germany pipelines because Exxon and BP wanted to be controlling the European Union. In other words, Britain, under Farage, wanted Britain to be richer than Germany and France when it comes to the most richest nations in the European Union. And if it took Brexit to do it, that's what Farage and Trump did. And between BP and Exxon, they wanted to control the flow of energy into Western Europe. So Trump was trying to pull the rugs from underneath Angela Merkel because he was trying to beat her to the finish line with Exxon to flood energy into Western Europe. And so Trump, they always laundered money into Trump's real estate. Trump wanted to get a Moscow tower in 2016 because between Exxon and Rex Tillerson and Trump, they already had it set up in their agenda that they was going to get back into the Russian Arctic, that they was going to raise sanctions off of Russia that would allow Exxon to get back into the Russian Arctic. So Trump wanted a Moscow tower out of it. Anyway, Trump made a deal with OPEC plus one, and now Jared is laundering incremental payments from the Crown Prince into Trump's real estate. And Trump got 2 loans for $8 million a pop, and that's the loans that we just know. That's not the money that they're laundering more money into Trump's real estate, the Russian government. So Trump, he should be tossed into jail for abusing the White House, for making a business organized crime, racketeering uh, in the Oval Office to enrich themselves and launder money into their real estates. Trump, when the the way these oil companies work and these countries is that they set it up in such a way that they make loans available to Trump's real estate, and they give them, like Jared, the Crown Prince gave Jared $2 billion. Why? Ask yourself why. You think Jared is a whiz? No, that's the Crown Prince way to incrementally release $25 million here, $30 million here, $50 million here for managing that portfolio. And that all that money is going into Trump real estate. And so between Trump making a deal with OPEC plus one to launder his real estate, he wants to win for 2024. And Putin has him compromised. What Trump would do if he was to win, he will stop immediate weapons to Ukraine. He will argue, oh, we did enough. NATO needs to do their own to supply weapons because we're not going to supply no more. And in reality, Trump is doing the bidding of Putin. He's afraid that Putin has a guillotine over his neck when it comes to compromise, and Trump doesn't want that guillotine to fall on his neck, and he's afraid to go to prison. So he's just willing to keep on saying it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt, and it's a deep state, and blah blah blah, and he deflects everything with everything is made up. It's a witch hunt. They're out to get me. But in reality, anybody with common sense can see and read in between the word, see his actions for what they are. Action speaks louder than words. Actions, not his lies to his base. His actions. And the FBI and the CIA, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's about time they throw the book at him, because sooner or later, Trump is should be brought to justice for what he's doing to this union. He's going to try to follow the big lie for 2024. Russia is going to try to flood this country with bots, and Trump would start most likely probably a second insurrection if he was to lose the majority votes, the popular vote, and the college electoral system. He would try to abuse it again to alienate the popular vote. So anyway, I think that is a tragedy, and I think the only verdict is the historians. When they look at the Russian collusion investigation, only the historians will be able to tell the truth, because this government in America is afraid of panicking the American oil industries, of panicking Wall Street when it comes to the American oil industry. They don't wanna hurt the petrol reserve currency, so they allow Trump to be a criminal organization, business racketeering with Russia for the love of defrauding the government. They're too afraid. The FBI, the CIA, Congress is too afraid to call them out for Russia. They're too afraid to speak truth to words when it comes to Trump in the Russian Arctic with Exxon. They're too afraid. And the government is too scared to address it. They don't wanna panic the markets. They don't wanna panic America's biggest oil industries. They don't wanna disenfranchise the petrol reserve currency, the greenback. And so they allow Trump to be a robber baron in the Russian Arctic. And that pisses me the fuck off to no ends.